Even though I was 6 years old in 2011, this year is when I started gaining more self awareness about where I am, what I'm doing, and where I'm going. It was also a very strange one because even though this year felt like a long time ago, well, technically it was a long time ago from where we are now. Some of the memories from that year just felt like they were happening either yesterday, and some of them just felt like a long time ago. In fact, some of them felt like they happened way before this year. Before 2011 came around, I used to be obsessed with watching many shows on CBeebies, but now when 2011 came around, I started watching more age appropriate stuff since I was six. But the films that I remembered watching from this time that I absolutely liked were films like the Smurfs film and Romeo and Juliet. And even though these films were brilliant at the time, looking back on them, they weren't as good. But we're not going to be talking about these films today. We're going to be talking about this one, Monster in Paris. A film so underrated, yet so brilliant, that somehow no one really talks about it that much. But what was the issue? Did the film have any flaws that we've yet to figure out? Or was it simply not good enough? Well, let's find out. I can't go too in depth with the story, so I'll try and keep it as brief as I possibly can to avoid spoilers. But here we go. The story is about these two guys who go into like this mad scientist room, and then something strange begins to happen in there. One of them sees this like creature that like flies out of the building and starts attacking the city of France. At least that's what the town folk tries to make it out to be. But it wasn't until an actress called Lucia hears the creatures singing outside, calls him Funker, and brings him in and tries to disguise him as a human to blend in with everyone else. There's no denying that the music is easily the best part of the entire film. The song Lost San is a song that I highly recommend checking out. In fact, I'll put a link to the song in my description just so you can listen to it for yourselves. Lost Sam may be the most popular song of the film, but the main song for the film was obviously Monster in Paris. And that song was sang when Fonka was outside in the rain singing it. I'll also put that song in my description just so you guys can have a listen to it. The film does have a main villain, but I've noticed that it doesn't really have that much of a main character. I mean, you can make the argument and say that Funker is the main one, but he's more of the plot of the film than he is the main character. But we also have the characters like Rolf and Emil. Rattler's more of an edgy delivery fella, while Emil's more of a subtle filmmaker. Come to think of it, these two remind me of Calvin and Rocky from Lackadaisy. Ironically, these were the two who actually created the monster. I won't go into depth of how they done it, so I'll have to. You guys can just watch it for yourself to see how it goes down. We also have Victor, aka the Commissioner, who is in fact the bad guy. And I thought that Ralph and Neil remind me of stuff, but Jesus Christ, this guy is like a combination of several different things. He's like Dick Dastardly and friggin' Skull from Monster House. Mostly Dick Dastardly. I mean, just look at the two. They're like bloody twins. Most underrated films tend to have not so good humour. I mean, don't get me wrong, you do get the odd one out there that has, slightly decent humour, and Monster in Paris falls into that category.
Interrupt the show, gentlemen, but I think you're about to be the stars of the next feature. It's called The Interrogation.
I'd say a good example of the humour would be this particular scene. In this scene, Fonka is holding Lucia, trying to play the monster to, fake the audience and try and, not genuinely kill him, but, act it out just to, make the audience calm down a bit. But, obviously, I can't go too in depth with with how the scene plays out, so you have to watch the film to, just because it will all make sense where you watch it. But anyway, in this scene, Fonka tries to do a raw, but because he was so used to singing, he ends up singing and accidentally sings instead, but later corrects himself. And This execution of the humour works because in most animated films they would have a similar way of doing it, but what separates Monster in Paris from the rest is that it actually has context to it. Now, obviously, not all the jokes are going to land, but this film has got a few decent ones that it manages to save itself. Unfortunately, I couldn't play the full clip to you all, but the way the guy screams at the end just gets me all the time. Aside from the film being monumentally brilliant, the only issues I have with it would be the story and the pacing. The film is an hour and 30 minutes long, which is pretty average for most animated movies, but it really didn't feel that way. It felt a lot shorter than what it actually is. And for the story, it didn't really feel like there was a story there. It just felt like there was this monster going around Paris and then there's the bad guy chasing after it. And I guess you could say that there is a bit of a moral to it, like good and evil comes from inside, but like it doesn't, like good and evil doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. A similar approach to what the Hunchback of Notre Dame did with its moral. Aside from its simple story and done-to-death moral, I still felt entertained watching it. It didn't feel boring. It just felt like it was actually trying to, make me feel satisfied watching it. Regardless whether this movie isn't as valued as others or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's still a work of art. It's got brilliant voice acting and a gorgeous soundtrack. And if that's something that you viewers can dine into, then I absolutely recommend giving this movie a watch. The film takes place in the 1800s, during which the Great Flood of Paris was around. And years later, when I was researching about this film, I found out that the Great Flood of Paris was actually based on a real event. The ironic thing is that when I was little, I couldn't quite remember who actually produced the film. For the longest time, I always thought it was like Sony Animation, but it turned out it was this French company that done the audio in English first to make it more international, gain international sales. With how underrated this film is, it's no surprise that it was a complete flop at the box office. And even though I went to see it at cinema, the film didn't really make its money back. It costed around 32 million to make and only got 26.6 million back off it. For a film so nostalgic and a film so charming, the fact that it never made its money back is just devastating to me. And that is Monster in Paris, a film that had great potentials but slowly started vanishing over the upcoming years. And I've talked to several people about this film, and only a couple of them that I know of that I've talked to in the past remember this film. But in comparison to all other animated films that I've seen, despite its flaws and the elements that are in this film, it at the end of the day, it was a work of art. And that's all that matters. Now, obviously, it's not a perfect film. It definitely has its flaws, but it's they're that small that they're easy to get by. And just because it's underrated doesn't necessarily make it boring. Because one thing's for sure, I certainly wasn't bored watching this film. And as a result, I do encourage you to watch this film if you haven't seen it already. It's beautiful, it's got good performance, it's got good voice acting and boss singing. And if you haven't seen this film, I do strongly recommend checking out this film. That is it for this video. I am Starnvader and I'll see you all in the next video.